Your refrigerator's steady hum suddenly stops. The kitchen falls into an eerie quiet. Time passes and the reality sets in. This blackout isn't temporary. The electrical safety net protecting your groceries has vanished. Dairy products, proteins, yesterday's dinner, all those items from your recent shopping trip are now racing toward their expiration. Many households freeze in this moment. They repeatedly check inside, rearranging items, praying the electricity returns before mealtime. But the harsh reality is simple. Without immediate action, you're staring down potential losses of several $100s in groceries. During genuine emergencies, you risk depleting your entire nutrition reserve unless you understand the techniques that preserve food temperature for extended periods, not mere hours, not just a couple days, but potentially multiple weeks with zero electrical power. Let's address the uncomfortable reality most prefer to ignore. That refrigerator you depend on constantly is surprisingly vulnerable. Once electricity fails, you're working within approximately a 4-hour window before temperatures climb into hazardous zones where harmful microorganisms multiply rapidly. Your freezer compartment offers slightly better odds, perhaps 24 hours, possibly 48 if you resist opening it, before transforming into a waterlogged container of ruined provisions. Honestly, electrical failures have evolved beyond occasional nuisances. They're occurring with greater frequency, extending longer, and causing more severe disruptions. Severe climate events, digital infrastructure attacks, system capacity failures, your location doesn't matter. You're always a single weather event or unfortunate circumstance away from your refrigeration system abandoning you. However, encouraging news exists. This situation isn't inevitable. Using appropriate preparation techniques, you can expand that narrow survival time frame into 14, 21, even 28 days of preserved provisions. No expensive power generation equipment required, no costly specialized tools, just intelligent, actionable methods that any household can implement immediately, regardless of living space size. Consider this presentation your comprehensive preservation strategy guide. When finished, you'll possess 10 battle-tested approaches to maintain food safety long after neighboring households are discarding spoiled items. Believe me, when electrical infrastructure collapses, this information transcends mere convenience. It represents genuine survival capability. Strategy number 1. Maximize freezer capacity with frozen reserves. When average households consider their freezer, they picture storage for convenience foods or frozen desserts. But for blackout preparation, you must reconceptualize your freezer as your primary thermal battery. Here's the fundamental principle. Never allow your freezer to operate half full. Vacant space equals wasted thermal capacity and squandered cooling potential. Instead, occupy every available gap with frozen water containers, plastic bottles, gallon containers, or heavy-duty resealable bags containing frozen water. What's the reasoning? 2 critical factors. Initially, these function as massive ice blocks, retaining coldness within your freezer substantially longer once electricity disappears. Additionally, after thawing occurs, you possess clean, potable water in vessels that are convenient for dispensing or transporting. That's beyond simple efficiency. It's dual-purpose survival planning. The scientific principle is straightforward. A completely filled freezer maintains safe temperatures approximately double the duration of an empty unit. Consider packing a camping cooler for an expedition. Greater ice volume inside means slower warming throughout. That identical concept applies directly here. Frozen water isn't merely space-filling material, it's your insurance policy. Most people make this critical error. They assume they'll fill it when power fails. Terrible strategy. By the moment you're frantically searching for containers, it's already past the point of effectiveness. You cannot freeze water inside a non-functioning freezer. Therefore, this must become a maintained habit, not an emergency reaction. Keep those containers or vessels inside continuously. Occasionally rotate them for freshness, but otherwise allow them to silently guard your thermal chain. Additional technique: freeze containers in varying sizes. Gallon vessels for bulk thermal storage, smaller containers to wedge into tight spaces or transfer into refrigerator compartments or coolers subsequently. This provides flexible cooling packs prepared for every scenario. Visualize your freezer as a secure vault. The more tightly and completely you fill it with frozen water reserves, the more time you purchase when electrical grids fail.
That additional time could represent the distinction between disposing of hundreds of dollars in groceries versus maintaining your household's nutrition through a week-long electrical failure. Strategy number 2. Transform your cooler into advanced cold storage. Now, let's examine your portable cooler. Most households regard coolers as equipment for outdoor gatherings or recreational activities, but during blackouts, a cooler transforms into your portable refrigeration unit. Properly prepared, it can exceed your disabled refrigerator's performance by multiple days. Here's your enhancement process. Initially, line interior surfaces with reflective insulation material. Consider those metallic emergency blankets or foil-backed bubble cushioning. This technique reflects coldness inward rather than allowing thermal leakage through thin plastic construction. Suddenly, your economical cooler performs more like professional-grade cold storage equipment. Next, abandon plain frozen water. Instead, utilize frozen saltwater packs. Why salt water? Because salt reduces the freezing temperature threshold, meaning those packs maintain colder temperatures substantially longer than plain frozen water. It's the identical principle that prevents ice cream from liquefying when you churn it using rock salt. Saltwater packs are essentially thermal batteries with amplified capacity. Third, arrange contents strategically. Don't simply throw everything inside hoping for positive results. Position your most temperature-sensitive items, proteins and dairy products, nearest to your cold packs. Maintain hardier foods like root crops or flavor enhancers toward exterior edges. Each time you lift the lid, you're releasing valuable coldness. Therefore, you want your priorities positioned for rapid retrieval. And here's the transformation technique. Pre-chill your cooler. Most people overlook this, but if you anticipate a storm or outage approaching, pack your cooler with ice or frozen containers the previous evening. Allow the walls to absorb that coldness. Then, when electricity cuts, your cooler isn't beginning at ambient temperature. It's already a cold stronghold, prepared to safeguard what's contained. Remember, during a blackout, your refrigerator operates on borrowed time. But an enhanced cooler, that purchases you multiple days. Days to extend your provisions, days to maintain your household's nutrition, and days to prevent the anxiety of spoiled groceries. Therefore, discontinue thinking of your cooler as recreational equipment. Conceptualize it as your blackout emergency refrigerator, one that you've upgraded with insulation, saltwater packs, and intelligent arrangement. The distinction between implementing this and neglecting it, approximately 7 days of nutritional security. Strategy number 3, the dedicated emergency cooler system. Here's a transformation most households never consider: the dedicated emergency cooler system. Abandon relying exclusively on your standard refrigerator and freezer when electricity vanishes. Instead, you designate one heavy-duty cooler, ideally a deep insulation model, not your lightweight recreational cooler, to function as your emergency refrigerator throughout blackouts. Here's the operational method. The instant your electricity blinks away, you don't simply wait passively for the refrigerator to warm. You immediately transfer your most temperature-sensitive, highest priority items into this designated cooler. We're discussing proteins, dairy, eggs, or anything else you absolutely must preserve for days, not hours. Because this cooler isn't being accessed repeatedly by household members seeking refreshments, the internal temperature remains considerably more stable. Now here's where advanced preparation proves essential. You don't simply store this cooler empty in your storage area hoping for favorable outcomes. Beforehand, you load it with pre-frozen gel packs, containers of salt water, which maintains colder temperatures longer than regular water, or even basic vessels. These frozen anchors establish a solid cold foundation that can maintain safe temperatures up to 7 days, occasionally longer. With appropriate layering and minimal access, individuals have extended this technique out to 7 to 10 days of safe nutritional storage. The brilliance of this technique is adaptability. If the outage continues, you can cycle frozen packs from another freezer, utilize block ice from neighbors, or even produce your own ice using solar-powered generators, if you possess that configuration. You're essentially establishing a secondary refrigeration system that purchases you days, sometimes weeks of buffer capacity. This isn't exclusively about survival, though. It's about mental tranquility. When everyone else panics and disposes of spoiled groceries, you still be preparing cold eggs and grilling fresh proteins, all because you maintain one insulated workhorse ready for deployment.
Strategy number 4. Mastering layering and thermal protection. Here's a brief physics lesson with enormous prepper benefits. Cold provisions thrive in proximity. When you pack food items tightly together, it establishes a kind of thermal mass, meaning the entire collection requires longer to warm. That's why layering and thermal protection can determine success or failure in your blackout nutrition strategy. The technique here involves treating your refrigerator, freezer, or cooler like a fortress. You don't randomly insert items hoping for favorable results. You establish zones and layers. For instance, raw proteins and seafood go on the bottom level. Frozen containers or packs form a cold foundation, and dairy or produce sit snugly in the middle section. The tighter you pack it, the longer everything remains cold because less warm air can infiltrate between items. But it extends beyond that. Consider insulation. Every layer you add between your provisions and the external environment purchases you additional time. Towels, old blankets, reflective emergency coverings, even basic cardboard sheets, they all function as shields. Each layer decelerates heat transfer. It's like wrapping your refrigerator inside a winter coat. And don't undervalue reflective barriers. A shiny survival blanket wrapped around your cooler or refrigerator door performs like magic because it reflects heat away, retaining coldness inside. Stack these with towels or foam panels, and suddenly your perishables are positioned inside a multi-layered cold fortress. Another underappreciated component, the no-peek protocol. Every time you crack open a refrigerator or cooler, you permit a wave of warm air inside. But if you've established layers and barriers appropriately, you don't need to rummage around. Organize beforehand so essentials are accessible quickly, minimizing how long the door remains open. This system is straightforward, economical, and remarkably effective. You're not reinventing basic principles. You're just ensuring your cold provisions have allies. With intelligent layering and thermal barriers, you're extending the time frame on spoilage by days. In a prolonged blackout, those extra days can make complete difference. Strategy number 5, leveraging dry ice and carbon dioxide benefits. Dry ice isn't exclusively for theatrical Halloween displays and fog effects. During a blackout, it's essentially your greatest ally. Why? Because a single block of dry ice can accomplish what regular ice struggles with. It maintains items frozen, not merely chilled, for days consecutively. Here's the magic. Dry ice is literally frozen carbon dioxide. Rather than melting into liquid like normal ice, it sublimes, meaning it transforms directly from solid to gas. That's a tremendous advantage for you because it doesn't leave behind a puddle that saturates your provisions. Instead, it generates a super chilled, dry environment that maintains everything at safe temperatures. Actually, just 10 pounds of dry ice can maintain a packed cooler frozen for 24 to 48 hours, occasionally longer if you're layering intelligently. But the genuine secret weapon, the gas itself. As dry ice evaporates, it fills the cooler or freezer space with carbon dioxide. That heavy gas displaces oxygen, which decelerates spoilage, fungal growth, and bacterial activity. You're not merely maintaining coldness, you're establishing a protective atmosphere that helps provisions last even longer. Think of it as a dual preservation system, freezing capability plus an invisible shield. Now, several guidelines. Always position dry ice atop the provisions in your cooler or freezer. Cold air descends, so it will cascade downward and maintain everything evenly frozen. Wrap it in newspaper or cardboard to decelerate sublimation. And never handle it with bare hands unless you enjoy frostbite injuries. Ventilation also matters. Don't confine yourself in a small sealed room with it, because CO2 accumulation can be hazardous. And here's a pro prepper technique. If you know a blackout is approaching, stash a block of dry ice in your main freezer. Not only will it extend the frozen lifespan of everything inside, but it will also purchase you critical time before you must start transferring items into your survival cooler configuration. Dry ice isn't something most households maintain daily, but many grocery stores and ice suppliers sell it by the pound. Keep it in your playbook, because when everyone else's freezer is transforming into a swampy disaster, you'll still be extracting rock-solid steaks and frozen vegetables. Strategy number 6. Preserve through cooking, dehydrating, or canning before spoilage. Here's the mindset transformation that separates casual food storage from serious preparation. Don't wait for provisions to spoil before you act. If you know the electricity will be absent for more than a day or two, it's time to go proactive.
Consider it this way. You either preserve your provisions now or you lose them later. Simple as that. Begin with proteins and dairy, the items most likely to spoil initially. Rather than letting raw poultry or beef sit in a warming refrigerator, cook it immediately. Grilled, baked, or stewed proteins will last longer even without refrigeration, and they can be consumed cold subsequently if needed. Milk? Boil it. Boiled milk extends its usable lifespan by days compared to raw. Eggs? Hard-boil them, and suddenly you possess a protein source that's safe outside the refrigerator for several days. Next up, dehydration. Fruits, vegetables, even herbs. If you possess a dehydrator or just favorable sunny weather, you can dry them out and purchase yourself weeks of storage time. Dried apple slices, banana chips, or jerky not only last longer, they occupy less space. And then there's canning. If you've already explored the prepper lifestyle, you know pressure canning or water bath canning is a lifesaver. That poultry you were worried about? Once canned, it's shelf-stable for months. Same with soups, legumes, and even some vegetables. You're essentially converting perishable groceries into pantry powerhouses. The key here is urgency. Many people in blackouts fall into the trap of, let's just wait and see. By the time they realize the outage is lasting longer than expected, half their refrigerator has already gone bad. Don't be that person. Day one is your window to act. Fire up the grill, get the pot spoiling, start dehydrating, and line up jars for canning. The beauty of this strategy is that even if the lights return sooner than expected, you haven't wasted effort. You've simply transformed fresh provisions into shelf-stable provisions, which saves money and time down the road. Either way, you win. So remember, in blackout preparation, preservation beats hesitation. Cook it, dry it, can it. Do whatever it takes, because once it spoils, there's no reversing it. Strategy number 7, intelligent food prioritization. Here's the harsh truth about blackouts. You can't save everything. No matter how many coolers, frozen packs, or techniques you've got lined up, at some point you'll have to prioritize. And that's where intelligent preparation becomes less about saving all the groceries and more about saving the right groceries. Consider it. Do you really need to consume your limited ice and cooler space attempting to keep leafy greens crisp? Reality check, lettuce wilts in hours no matter what you do. Same with cucumbers, fresh herbs, or that bag of mixed salad greens you purchased on sale. Those foods are low-calorie, low-value, and short-lived. If they spoil, the impact on your long-term survival is pretty minimal. Now contrast that with high-value items, proteins, fats, and dairy. Meats, cheeses, milk, butter, yogurt, these are dense calorie sources, full of nutrition, and much harder to replace if they spoil. They're also versatile. A pound of cooked poultry can stretch across several meals, while a block of cheese adds protein and fat to otherwise plain staples like rice or legumes. Losing these is a real hit. So here's the strategy. During an outage, triage your provisions like a battlefield medic. Ask yourself which items keep me fueled the longest, store the best once cooked, or provide the biggest nutritional punch. Those go straight into your coldest cooler, surrounded by ice packs or dry ice. Everything else gets shifted down the priority list. Another intelligent move is grouping. Keep your perishables together, but don't let lower priority items steal prime real estate from your proteins. If something like lettuce spoils, fine. It's better than losing that gallon of milk you could have boiled and stretched for several days. This mindset also helps reduce stress. Instead of panicking over losing everything, you take control by choosing what's worth saving. That shift in perspective means you emerge from the blackout with your most important provisions intact, not wasting resources on items that were destined to fail anyway. Bottom line, ice and cooler space are currency in a blackout. Spend them wisely. Strategy number 8. Utilize underground storage or water submersion. Sometimes the best techniques aren't high-tech. They're downright ancient. Long before refrigerators existed, people knew how to keep provisions cold with nothing more than the ground beneath their feet and the streams around their homes. And in a blackout, those old-school tricks can still work wonders. Let's start with underground storage. Ever notice how a basement feels cool even on a scorching summer day? That's because the earth, just a few feet down, holds a steady temperature, usually between 50 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit in many regions. It's not freezing, but it's much cooler than surface air that might be 85 to 100 degrees during a blackout.
It slows spoilage dramatically and purchases you precious days, sometimes even a week or more. Now don't just toss provisions in a hole. Use sturdy containers like plastic bins, sealed buckets, or even water bricks to keep critters, dirt, and moisture out. A quick and practical version: dig a shallow trench, place your sealed container inside, cover it with a tarp, and bury it under a couple feet of soil. That thermal buffer keeps the contents cooler than anything left sitting in your warm kitchen. Then there's water. Running streams, ponds, or even deep wells naturally stay cooler than the air, especially in shaded areas. By submerging sealed food containers, think mason jars, watertight bins, or even heavy-duty resealable bags inside buckets, you can use that natural cold to extend freshness. Just make sure everything is tightly sealed, because the last thing you want is bacteria from the water creeping into your provisions. Even if you don't have a stream, a shaded rain barrel or a large tub of water in your yard or balcony can work as a mini thermal sink. Water resists temperature change better than air, so placing sealed perishables inside keeps them cooler for longer. The genius of these techniques is that they don't require electricity, fancy equipment, or even much preparation time. They rely on physics and the natural environment, which, let's face it, is the same system humanity used for centuries before refrigerators ever existed. So, if your coolers are maxed out and the blackout drags on, look down. The ground and water around you might be the backup refrigerator you never knew you had. Strategy number 9. Portable solar power combined with 12-volt refrigeration freezer. Now let's discuss the Premier League of blackout preparation. Portable solar power paired with a 12-volt refrigerator freezer. This is the upgrade that takes you from just surviving during an outage to living almost normally while everyone else is scrambling. Why 12-volt refrigerators specifically? Because they're designed to sip power instead of guzzle it. Unlike your home refrigerator that draws hundreds of watts just to operate, a quality 12-volt refrigerator freezer, like the kind used in recreational vehicles or off-grid setups, can run on as little as 40 to 60 watts. That means it's perfectly matched to portable solar panels and a decent solar generator or power station. Here's how it operates. You set up a foldable solar panel on your balcony, patio, or even out a window. That panel feeds into your portable power station, which acts like a battery bank. Your 12-volt refrigerator plugs into that battery, and as long as the sun shines, it just keeps cycling. Even on cloudy days, the battery gives you backup hours to coast through the night until the next sunrise.
The beauty here isn't just about keeping milk cold or frozen desserts solid. It's about independence. While everyone else is racing to the store for bags of ice, you're operating your own tiny off-grid cold chain system. Proteins stay frozen, dairy stays safe, and you don't have to keep moving provisions between coolers and melting ice packs. Yes, it's an investment, no sugarcoating that. A good portable solar generator plus panels and a refrigerator isn't inexpensive. But for serious preppers, this is the gold standard. It pays for itself the very first time a blackout drags on for days or weeks. Instead of consuming through your supplies in panic, you stretch them comfortably while the sun powers your preparation. And here's the bonus. This setup doesn't just serve you in blackouts. Camping trips, road travel, tailgating, even day-to-day use in small apartments where you need extra freezer space, your 12-volt refrigerator freezer pulls double duty. It's not just an emergency tool, it's a lifestyle upgrade. So if you're thinking long-term, skip the ice run and go solar. It's the closest thing to making your refrigerator blackout-proof. Strategy number 10. Develop a continuous rotation system. Here's the final secret most people miss. Cold storage isn't about panic, it's about practice. The worst time to figure out how to extend your freezer lifespan is when the lights just went out and you're fumbling with melting ice. That's where the rotation mindset enters. Think of your freezer not as a static box, but as a constantly moving system. Every time you use frozen water containers to keep provisions cold, replace them with fresh ones immediately. That way, you always have a wall of ice ready to weather the first hours of a blackout. It's not about filling it once, it's about keeping it full and fresh. The same goes for emergency-only meals. Instead of waiting until the power's out to wonder what's safe to consume, set aside a small section of your freezer for blackout rations. Pre-cooked casseroles, vacuum-sealed proteins, or even ready-to-heat soups. Rotate them in and out just like your pantry goods. Cook and eat one, then replace it.
That way, your emergency stash is never expired, never freezer burned, and always ready to go. This mindset accomplishes two big things. First, it removes panic. When the power cuts, you already know what's in your freezer, where it is, and how you'll use it. Second, it extends your resilience. Instead of scrambling to cook everything at once, you've got layers of frozen backups that are always within their safe window. And here's the beauty. Rotation doesn't require extra space. You don't need a second freezer or more square footage. You're just managing what you already have more intelligently. Even small apartments can build this habit without losing a single inch of living space. If you build a habit of rotating ice packs, frozen meals, and blackout-ready containers into your weekly routine, then the next time a storm or grid failure hits, you're not caught off guard. You're executing the playbook you've practiced all year. At the end of the day, a power outage doesn't have to transform your refrigerator into a ticking time bomb. Losing electricity doesn't automatically mean you're losing your provisions, not if you've got the right systems in place. With a little foresight and some surprisingly simple techniques, you can flip the script. Instead of staring at spoiled groceries and melted freezers, you'll be stretching days into weeks of safe, secure nutrition. Now here's the real question. What's your #1 blackout food-saving technique? Maybe it's something we covered today. Maybe it's something totally unique you figured out for yourself. Drop it down in the comments, because the next time the lights go out, your idea could be the one that saves somebody else's food stash. And hey, if this gave you even one new trick to try, don't just keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, share this with a friend or neighbor who thinks their refrigerator can't survive a power cut.